Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Saints Row the Third Remastered. I really wanted to start the game like this in the middle of a police shootout and chaos and all that because it sort of encapsulates what the game is really about. And today's main question is Saints Row the Third Remastered worth your time, money and effort? Does it warrant another playthrough of the phenomenal open world game from a few years ago, or does it just simply not change enough? Well, let's get I think I'll take a look at the list of changes first, and then it's sort of a thing that you have to make, you know, sort of a decision that you have to make for yourselves. But I'll try and keep it as brief and as simple as possible, and I'll give you my opinion on whether you should consider something like this or not. So, let's not blow ourselves up. That would be highly inappropriate given the situation we're in. Alright, so here's the thing. What is exactly remastered in Saints Row the Third this time round? Well, the visuals as well as some gameplay elements like the FPS cap. So the FPS cap has been removed, and it is no longer... I think the game used to be locked to like 30 or... I don't remember. I think it was around 30. I don't think it was a full 60 FPS game, maybe a bit more than 30, but the game is no longer FPS locked. Also, there's been a few new technologies added to make, or rather to allow, for the possibility of having denser streets and simply more actors on the screen at one given time. I think the view distance and the render distance have also been improved. The lighting has been dramatically improved, as well as the overall texture quality. Speaking of the texture quality, I think it's probably one of the weakest things in the remake. Now, the performance improvements and the FPS thing and all of that, you can definitely feel it. As soon as you start shooting, it's no longer... I've played actually semi-recently Saints Row the Third, just, you know, I knew the remastered one was coming out, so I wanted to sort of compare the two, and you can definitely feel that it's nowhere near as choppy, especially when you're aiming and when you're, well, generally when you're in fights that are pretty intense and you need to, like, yeah, you need to do stuff like this. You really feel the extra FPS. So, yeah, here's the thing. The graphics, on the other hand, the texture quality is meh. The characters look a lot better in my modest opinion, though you could make the argument that the older style had them a little bit more... gave them a little bit more personality, let's say, which was, yeah, pretty much all that Saints Row is about. It's just personality incarnate with most of these characters. Anyways, though, point being, they look a lot more high-res, they look a lot better, and they look a little bit more realistic, in my opinion, but there are arguments to be made for the older style of character rendering and character creation, I suppose. So, here's the thing. Is it ultimately worth it? Well, the reason I started this video from the very beginning of the game, and literally the first 10 minutes of it, is because I didn't want to spoil anything for people that have never played the game before, because if you've never played it before, this is the ideal time. Saints Row the Third is my first Saints Row game. I've never gotten around to playing the second one when it was initially released. I played it after the third one. So all the other Saints Row games have been a little bit lackluster apart from Saints Row 2 and 3. Most people, I think, of the hardcore Saints Row fanbase would have preferred Saints Row the Third. Saints Row 2 being remastered, and I think I'm among them because it's simply an older game and I would have loved to see it with new graphics, with a new engine, or with, you know, like new mechanics and stuff like that. So, I'm going to go through the character creation screen and I'll cut here and I'll see you in a bit, but essentially, this is now the absolute best time to be picking up Saints Row 3, or Saints Row the Third, which is a phenomenal open world game, and possibly one of the best, if not the best, ever released, right up there with GTA San Andreas and Saints Row 2. It is absolutely phenomenal. Alright? I'll be back in a bit. Alright, and we're back. So, ultimately, like I said, it is the perfect time to start the game if you've never played it before, but if you've played it before, is it actually worth, you know, giving it a replay? Well, I think that's, again, it's highly subjective, obviously, but as someone who hasn't played Saints Row the Third in quite a while, I'm fairly certain I'll be giving it a few more hours of my time, and I guess reliving the entire nostalgia thing. So from that perspective, it is absolutely worth it, but that said, not much has changed about the game. Sure, the characters look better, and actually I think the cutscenes, some of them are phenomenal, some of them are a bit weaker, like this one, so it kind of feels a bit odd. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to strike a balance between how the old game felt and looked, and adding their new graphics and stuff like that. So, from that perspective, I think they're actually doing a pretty damn good job. So this is your introduction to, obviously, the initial, okay, let's say to the main antagonist of the game, though I kind of spoiled it, the Syndicate and this guy here. But anyways, more on that later. More on that when you actually play the game for yourselves, if you haven't before. Anyways, so ultimately, I do think that this is a great remake. It doesn't change a lot from the original formula, and that's where sort of the most of the issues and most of the problems when it comes to recommending something like this arise from. This is not a new Saints Row game. This is not a vastly improved previous Saints Row game, but it is improved. It does look better, and it is really, really cool. So ultimately, I do recommend that you pick this game up even if you've played it before. The only problem is it's an Epic Games Store exclusive for now, so you might want to wait around if you don't like that store, or, you know, something along those lines. But, you know, you have other problems with it, whatever the case may be. I just realised maybe I shouldn't have shown this, but it is like the very beginning of the game. It is kind of spoilerish. Anyways, though, let's talk about... Oh god, this... sorry, my ears are actually ringing. Let's talk about the entire co-op thing and the sort of PC optimization thing. Obviously, if you can play the game in co-op with someone, I think you're going to have a vastly better experience, because it just really is awesome, and it is a great thing to experience. But ultimately, it comes down to... before I forget, the game also feels and plays a lot better on PC now. I used to use the Xbox 360 controller back in the day quite a bit to... both for driving, flying helicopters, and I think for a large part of the game I just played it on the controller. But the game controls actually and feels a lot better now with mouse and keyboard. So yeah, it is truly upgraded in oh so many ways. And there's nothing really that I can point out to say, you know, oh, this was better in the previous titles. So really, as far as I'm concerned, keep going. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, this is the ultimate Saints Row the Third experience right now, because there's, you know, like I said, nothing I can see here is. Let's grab you. Is worse than in the previous installment. So. There is also a plethora of, but this is like more of a Saints Row the Third thing anyway, it's not a remastered thing specifically. There is also a plethora of activities and quote-unquote cheat codes, but in reality they're like bonus codes that you put in and like they make the world insane, like there's a zombies mode and so on and so forth. So there's all sorts of things you can do to make the game more interesting and that aren't necessarily connected to the story itself. So yeah, if you can do that in co-op, that is, you know, I fully recommend it. But ultimately, it is a phenomenal game, whichever way you play it and whatever part of it you focus on. It is really, really well done, and I think it stands the test of time quite decently enough. Graphically, it has been improved, but the core gameplay elements remain the same, and they're equally fun now as they were when the game was initially released. So let's grab. Never mind. Don't worry, there's not a lot of QTEs in it. Alright. I love this segment so much. Right. It is just insane, though. It is just, I mean, it is just absolutely insane, obviously. And, what you gonna do about it? I'm understanding as I'm, like, going through the absolute insanity that is this shooter segment. This might not be for everyone. Like, I understand if you're not exactly the biggest fan of such ludicrousy, but it is just, it's just a superbly fun game. So, let's get down to the, I guess, last few thoughts on it. With all the different improvements to the controls, the visual ones, the engine, the denser, the ability to have denser population and traffic and whatnot, to have more actors on the screen, with the new lighting overhaul that really does look better. I think I dare say the majority of cases nowadays, when you say lighting overall, it usually gets worse or gets different. It doesn't necessarily get better. But I think in the case of Saints Row, the game did legitimately get better in terms of the lighting. Especially when you go down, I'm not going to be able to show it here, actually maybe I will. Especially when you go down onto the streets at night, the game looks really, really good and looks just genuinely a lot better, and yeah, that now it glitches out, but yeah, never mind. Actually, I did notice a, sorry about that, I did notice a bug in the character creation menu, but I'm hoping I'm going to fix that eventually. It kept resetting my age and sex appeal. Yeah, it's weird. I know, it's weird. Anyways, let us shoot some more baddies and wrap this up, shall we? So, the ending sort of thoughts of mine would be, if you've never played Saints Row, this is the absolute perfect time to get it. As I've mentioned previously, there's so many things that are better, and the game is just generally, you know, even the old one is just terrific, and it does warrant a purchase. That said, though, I can't help the feeling that it is a bit pricey for such an old game to be paying, you know, basically again for it. Even with all the improvements, it's difficult to recommend for people that have played through the game once or multiple times before and liked it and just, you know, moved on. If Saints Row the Third is something that's stuck with you, at least in the back of your head, and every now and again you think, God, that was a great game, shame we don't have you know, more of those, then I absolutely recommend it. But if you're the kind of person that just played through the game, or played through part of the game and just moved on, I don't necessarily recommend this, because it's just Saints Row the Third again, except it looks a little bit better, right? It plays a bit better, it looks a bit better, but ultimately, it's still Saints Row the Third. There's not that much to it. It's still the same old game, so it's kind of difficult to... Let's try and skip this, because... Nah, okay, that's better, that's better. Good, so... Yeah, like I said, it's kind of difficult to recommend off the get-go, because it is an older game and it doesn't look that much better, and this is everything on Ultra, everything on the highest settings, so yeah. Be that as it may, though, I think let's not deter from the main point here, and that is that if you never played the game, and it didn't sell all that well, to be honest with you, this is the absolute best time to pick it up. It's been fixed, there's a lot of, like, I've played, this is not the only save file I have, this is not the very beginning of the game, I've played through it a little bit. So a lot of the bugs that I've seen occasionally popping up in the previous installment of the game have been fixed. This comes with all the DLC and the bonuses with it as well, the Remastered Edition, so yeah, it's a really, really cool game. It's phenomenal if you've never played it. Despite its age, I recommend that you just give it a shot, because if you like open world games with a bit of silliness, a lot of action, and honestly a pretty damn good story, then I think you're absolutely going to love it. And yeah, I promised to show you the lighting, and here it is. Lighting is bloody gorgeous, look at it. Yeah, so I guess a professional would show you now screenshots or at least some footage from the previous or from the non-remastered edition to make it sort of make a comparison, but yeah, you can find screenshots or gameplay of the previous game and just play it parallel to this one. It's really not that difficult. I just, to be honest with you, don't feel like installing it again. Be that as it may, though, I think that's pretty much it. Lots of fun in free roam, which I think is like one of the most important aspects for an open world game. It's not just the story. Free roam is phenomenal. I used to spend hours upon hours playing it. Great music, which I unfortunately I had to turn off because of the copyrights thing. But yeah, game's bloody phenomenal. Play it again if you've played it before, but only if you really liked it. That's sort of like my ultimate sense, I suppose, on it, or my ultimate piece of advice. Anyways, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you learned something. If you have any questions about the game, feel free to ask me down in the comments below. I will respond to each and every one. And yeah, like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed the video. And I'll stay tuned with the rest of the content, and it really helps the channel out with the algorithm and everything. But until next time, I will see you all. Have fun, take care, and bye-bye.